His parents, my mother, who was already pregnant with me, and my father and the rest of the extended family prayed for a miracle, but feared the worst. Much happier news came on October 24th, 1942, when I was born in Santa Cruz. Years later, Carl Scott, who managed my band Harpers Bizarre, changed my birth date and those of my bandmates to later years because he wanted us to appear younger to our fans. So websites like Wikipedia often give my birthday as 1944. Like my uncle, I would be called Ted, despite the name Edward J. Templeman II appearing on my birth certificate. My mom and dad later told me they named me after him because deep down in their hearts they thought he was dead. In later years, my uncle would tell me about what he endured in captivity. For the first few weeks, he and the other Houston survivors were held in camps in Java. The Japanese didn't tend to their wounds and underfed them. He told me beatings were a daily occurrence. In October 1942, the Japanese moved him and a number of other Americans to Singapore, and then eventually to Burma. The Japanese forced prisoners at my uncle's camp to work on the infamous Burma Railway project, laying railroad line through the jungle. Before dawn each day, their guards would herd them along a path from their camp to construction sites, where they'd toil until night fell. Then they'd stagger back, dead tired, to their camp, with their guards forcing the feeblest of the prisoners to keep pace with the others. My uncle confided in me about one event during those marches that particularly traumatized him. A little girl came alongside the line of prisoners and started walking near him. Out of sympathy, she handed a piece of bread to the man in line in front of my uncle. A guard, without flinching, then shot her in the head. In the Burma camp, they lived on moldy rice and consumed starvation rations. My uncle said the guards would throw these little crumbs of rice on the ground, and they'd all scramble to pick them up and eat them. They gave them fetid fish pulsing with maggots, so they had to fend for themselves to get sufficient calories to survive. They'd eat the snakes that would coil up in the rafters of their huts and whatever other living things they could get their hands on. He told me that one time he was so ravenous that he ate a live spider. The prisoners eventually got hold of a monkey that came to serve as their food tester. They'd cut a piece off of a snake and feed it, raw, to the monkey. If the monkey didn't die, they'd eat the snake meat, too. He said the Korean guards who worked in the camp for the Japanese were the worst aspect of his captivity. They were huge and mean and treated the prisoners worse than the Japanese did. He said there was a big, stinking latrine pit in the camp. To punish the prisoners, the guards would submerge their heads in the raw sewage, sometimes until they died. My uncle told me they did this for their own amusement. Other times they'd simply kick men to death. Guys got sick and died of everything from diseases like dysentery to infected wounds that went untreated. Many were killed while doing the dangerous construction work. All of it was awful, unspeakable stuff that he rarely wanted to discuss. I do recall, however, that one time he did raise the subject was in connection with the 1957 movie The Bridge on the River Kwai, which dramatized the plight of Allied prisoners held by the Japanese. He thought it romanticized the horrors he and his compatriots endured while building the death railway for the Japanese. In late December 1943, my family's prayers were answered. A postcard, written in what appeared to be my uncle's handwriting, arrived at his parents' home in Santa Cruz, all the way from Moulmein, Burma. It contained the sentence, "Let me know about the family and Evelyn." Since the note used my mother's name, the military and the rest of my family knew it was almost certainly from him rather than a Japanese forgery. My mom told this story many times over the years. In 1944, the Japanese relocated my uncle and a number of other prisoners to Bangkok. That summer, he mailed another letter home, which, thanks to the Red Cross, made it to Santa Cruz from Thailand, albeit 8 months after it was written. He survived years in captivity, but the war still wasn't over, and he still wasn't home. I was no older than a toddler during the war, but my earliest memories involve it. My Uncle Ken was a sergeant major in the Army Air Corps and flew on B-29s. He never talked to me about the war, but my mom used to tell me that Ken found out after the war that while on bombing missions in the Far East, he'd flown